everyone, and welcome to the St. Lucie County Public Schools Speakers Bureau again. For those of you that's been with us, you know that we are here to encourage, to motivate, and to inspire our young people first, but also our community. So we have guests that come on and they share their life story. And through that life story, we hope that there's something that will motivate and encourage you to move forward in life and to be the best that you can be. So I am so pleased today because I have someone that I'm sure all of us want to hear from. It is our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jonathan Prince, and he's our guest today.
All right, I'm excited. This is great.
So let's start out, Dr. Prince. First of all, welcome and thank you for attending the Speakers Bureau.
Oh, I would not miss it, Dr. Mills. I really appreciate what you do for our community, and having this opportunity to sit down with you, I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Thank you. And you always are so willing to come whenever I ask, so I really appreciate that. Let's start out with what your job is as Superintendent of Schools. Let's start out with that.
Okay.
And then we're going to go back and talk about your childhood and how you end up where you are today.
Yeah. Well, the superintendent is kind of the chief operating or chief executive officer of the school district. Mm-hmm. And I just have to make sure that, you know, you provide a vision and direction for the district that's aligned with the boards. We have 5 board members, as you know, mm-hmm. and you have to make sure that you know, you run everything through your board to make sure, you know, that the board supports what you want to do as a superintendent. But also, you want to make sure that you hire people around you that are where the rubber meets the road and can actually, there is no vision if nothing's getting accomplished.
Right.
So I think the most important thing is really the people you surround yourself with that can actually put your vision into action, mm-hmm. which was interesting because prior to this job, this is my first year as superintendent, that's what I did as a deputy superintendent for Mr. Gent when he was superintendent here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so tell us about your childhood challenges, especially, please.
Yeah, I was one of 7 children. My father was a small business owner. Mm-hmm. He ran a produce company, and my mother was basically she ran a nursery out of our house. Mm-hmm. And I always make a joke that it wasn't until I was a young adult that I realized that, you know, she was paid in cash and never paid taxes on that. Oh. She's 83 years old. I don't think the IRS is going to come get her.
Right.
But
I don't know.
Yeah, they can go back a long way. But we were a blue-collar family, mm-hmm. and we had none of my siblings and nor my parents had attended college. So that was never an aspiration for me growing up. It was always my dad's children worked in the produce industry. Mm-hmm. So whenever we got out of high school, we just went to work for him. And that's kind of what you do in a small town, like almost if you're in a farming community, you become a farmer. Mm-hmm. It was, I would say, we didn't have money, but my siblings were very tight. You know, we had a tight-knit family, and, mm-hmm. and we still are to this day. We do anything for each other. Mm-hmm. But I was very blessed to have that. But it was not an easy childhood, let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm. So as a teenager, you mentioned that no one in your family had graduated from college. It mm-hmm. wasn't a thing to go to college. So how did you choose to go to college, and how did that happen?
Well, you know, I lucked out. I met someone that transformed, you know, my life. When I was young high school student, I met a teacher. His name was Chuck Woolwine, mm-hmm. and he was a larger-than-life character. He had this, he looked like Willy Wonka mm-hmm. from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the movie with Gene Wilder. Mm-hmm. Just crazy hair. He wore a white lab coat, and he carried a yardstick.
Sounds like a cartoon character.
Yes, he does. And he was a former helicopter pilot in Vietnam. Mm. But I think he was just such an interesting man, and that year I developed a close relationship with him. I did not have a very close relationship with my father. Mm-hmm. My father was a very hard man because he came from a hard background, mm-hmm. and he didn't know any better. But Mr. Woolwine was a very relationship-oriented person. He was empathetic, he was sensitive. And I remember one day he said, you know, where are you going to go to college? Mm. And I never thought that I would ever go to college. And he said, you know, you're really selling yourself short if you don't go to college, because you're a bright young man. And he really mentored me and helped me, and even helped me through the process of applying to colleges. And that was the most meaningful relationship that I'd had with an adult at that time. He really became a father figure, and unbeknownst to him, I think he became a father figure, and that led me into not just college but teaching.
I had a question I was going to ask you about who mostly influenced you in life, or who are you most thankful for?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to, you know, just take for granted that you're talking about Mr.
Woolwine, and he is.
Okay.
He's the most meaningful relationship that I had, other than my family members at that point in my life. Like, my trajectory in life was changed by this one person. And I think that's what great teachers do. You know, when you come across somebody, and not just, you know, we have teachers that encourage people to go into science or math or engineering or an industry, and you just meet somebody that, you know, you just bond with and you want to be like, and he was that for me.
So did you see him after college or during the time of going to college?
Well, I would say years later, I thought I had arrived. I became a school administrator, an assistant
so you
principal.
Just took off from there. Okay.
And I went back, and I looked him up, and this was before you could just Google somebody's name. You actually had to do a little work. You know, you had to pull a phone book.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Go through the list.
Figure out where somebody lived.
Make the calls.
Yes. And he was an assistant principal at the time in Niceville, Florida. Actually, I'd become a principal. That's what it was. I'd become a principal.
Wow.
And I wanted to go and tell him that he was the difference maker for me. And I tracked him down, and of all things, he's doing discipline at a high school, at Niceville High School. I'll never forget it. And I went to see him, and I'm trying to get myself prepared. Like, this is going to be, he's going to hug me. I may shed some tears. I brought some Kleenex just in case. And he looked at me, and I introduced myself, and he had no clue who I was. which was really disappointing, because I thought, oh, wow, you know, I mean, he's got to know who I am. And I talked a little bit and mentioned, yeah, I used to stay after school and help you with labs. And it was in that moment he goes, I know exactly who you are. Yes, yes, you're Johnny Prince. And I go by John now. But he said, yes, Johnny, yes. And I realized in that moment, in that I was initially really disappointed, but then I was encouraged, because I realized, you know, that's what great teachers do. They make you feel like you're the most important person in the world, and you're just one of 28 or 29 students. You know what I mean? But if you're really good, you know, when you're in that moment, you feel like, man, they think I'm the greatest
I know
thing
all
ever.
about it. We have had a program for over 35 years now in the community. And so we have adults now that come back to say thank you, or they see us and they're grown, because we work with children, and I don't know them.
Yeah.
And yet they say, you have no idea what you did or what you said or how you influenced my life, and they're thankful. Yeah. But I don't know them.
But doesn't that mean so much to you?
That
when they
means
do that?
so much to me, because it's incredible how you can take a child's life and say something, and it doesn't have to be a lot.
Right.
But it just, you know, in my own life, I remember certain things that were said to me that caused me to say, oh, really? You see me that way?
Right.
You know, well, maybe I do have something here that I can work with.
Well, I think sometimes, you know, we don't go into education, or we don't do things for children, you know, for recognition, or for an award, or for a honey bun. You know, we do it because we love it and we care, and we want to pay back a little bit to the community. And I think it is nice when people do take the time to go, and I always encourage people, you know, go thank your mentor. Go thank somebody that made a difference in your life, because it's important that they hear that from you.
Yes, it is. Okay, now we have people that have real challenges out there.
Yeah.
Can you remember or share with us a time when you felt like this was the worst time in my life, and, you know, I'm just want to give up, or maybe you've never been through that?
Yeah,
you know,
well, I have. I think I'll attribute this, I think John Maxwell said, 90% of your life is what, or 10% of your life is what happens to you. 90% is how you deal with it. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody has been through times in their lives where they're going through something that they think they're never going to get out of. And in my personal experience, I've been through a couple of those rough experiences in my both personally and professionally. I've been through tough times in my career where I've been through a demotion. I mean, I've been through humiliation. I've been laid low. And the most important thing for me in that time is, I still had my wife, I had my children, and I still took the responsibility to, even in that time, I had made professional mistakes. Mm-hmm. I think it was important for my children to see that I was going to own up to it, that I was going to accept responsibility, and I wasn't going to hide from it. And the only way, I think, through difficult times is always to have the truth, see the truth, and be the truth. Mm-hmm. And even if you make mistakes, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes.
It is.
Because I do think that
it's human.
Yes, and I think that your failure in life is really, in a weird way, what defines you, because it's not failure, it's how you deal with it.
It's how you deal with it.
And if you learn from it, if you take lessons from it, and you can make the changes you need to make in your life so that it never happens again, then it's the greatest blessing that you'll ever have. So I think that's kind of how I've tried to live my life, and the things that I've gone through is that life can be difficult, but you just have to persevere.
Do you personally believe in second chances?
I believe in second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh chances. I will tell you.
Amen to that.
Yes, I mean, you can't be. I've been in some really challenging schools. I've been blessed to be a school leader in schools that have failed, so to speak. They failed kids. And in those schools, it's never a kid problem. It's usually adult problems.
That's what I always say.
And what adults believe about kids. But when you've got kids, particularly of poverty, they're going to make mistakes. And you have to embrace them, love them, care for them, provide them second, third, fourth chances, because no child is beyond saving, and no child is a finished product. So we have to understand that and empathize a little bit that you have no idea. We have control over kind of 7.5 hours of their day. And once they are outside of that 7.5 hours, we have no idea what they're going through.
That's right.
And we have to understand that when they come into school, they have to be cared for, they got to be loved, they got to be fed, they've got to be structured. And I do absolutely. Second chances is way down the line for me. I'm talking, we give chance, because everybody's worth saving.
Yes. And I know that you realize it with your conversation now, but when you have those qualities and you give them to children, that nurturing, that caring, that, that part, tough love. Sure. I always call it tough love, but love. They know. And you can get more out of a child, even one that's behavior problems. You can get more from that child. Sure. Just because they know you care. And that's what you're talking about today. Now, what advice would you give someone that's going into leadership for the first time, leadership position?
I would encourage folks that are going into leadership, is the first lesson of leadership is to really listen. You can't lead without listening. It's really important to understand. I keep going back to my experiences as a principal walking into a school that has failed. And, one of the things that I did was I would go into every teacher's classroom and tell me 3 things that the school does really well. Where are 3 things that the school struggles with? And the last question is, who do you go to for help? Okay? The third question is the most important question, because it shows you who their leaders are. Because if their leaders are not the designated leaders, if none of the assistant principals at the school or none of the coaches or department heads are who do you go to for help, then they've got the wrong people doing those jobs. So it's very powerful. But I do believe that perception is reality. and you've really got to get an understanding of, you know, what people think about the system, what the people think about how well the organization is doing. And I think that that's one of the lessons. If you're going into leadership, leadership is not about power. You know, you've got to have people want to follow you. And to have that, you have to build relationships, build trust, and not just trust, that they've got to believe that you're in your position for a reason, not just because you got selected. You've got to earn it once you get it. You know, so I think that's really important, a lesson learned. You know, I keep going back to Maxwell, but you know, we had 5 levels of leadership, and just because you have a position doesn't really mean anything.
No,
You
no.
know?
In fact, there's different levels of that
Exactly.
leadership.
And you've really got to get the trust and support of the people you're leading, and that takes time, it takes listening, and it takes really effort on your part to lead by example.
So a leader, you're saying, needs to get the trust and support
Absolutely.
of the people they are leading.
Yes.
And that's vital. Is that what you say, that's the characteristic that's most important, that every leadership possess?
Yes,
Or,
I do. I think that, you know, you've got different kinds of leaders. I call some folks are, you know, charismatic leaders. They can give a great speech. You know, you've got, I call them kind of wonky data leaders that are just into numbers and they're not good at relationships. You know, I think one of the biggest things also of leadership is don't surround yourself with yourself. What I'm
like
saying
you?
is, yes, don't surround yourself with people that are like you. Surround yourself, know what kind of things you're strong in, and hire people or surround yourself with people that are strong in areas you're not. And that is really, really important. Because when you hire your friends or you hire people that are all like-minded, you never have dissent in an organization, and you don't understand when there's an alternative voice. You've got to have people that will give you bad news, that will tell you what you don't want to hear. And there's got to be a safety and trust to be able to do that.
And then give them the room for their
Yes,
talents and
absolutely.
their abilities to flourish as well.
I agree. I hope you're not thinking about taking my job, because that sounded pretty good. I like that.
What is your best childhood memory? Do you have one?
Ooh, I'll tell you a memory that I have. That's a good one. When I was probably 5 years old, like I said, we didn't have a lot of money, and I was a middle child, you know, of 7 brothers and sisters. I did not know this, but I wanted a big wheel. You know, those things that you ride, you know, as a little kid. That was my dream gift.
And you're a middle child out of 7 kids,
Yes.
and you wanted a
Yeah,
big
I
wheel.
wanted-
I
I
can
wanted-
relate
yes.
with that. I'm a middle child too, but go
So
ahead.
I wanted a big wheel, and my parents were stone cold broke, and we were already told we were not going to get a lot of gifts. And my older sister and 2 older brothers, I guess, pooled their money. They collected Coke bottles. And they turned in the Coke bottles for money. And
I remember those days.
And over forever, they saved all this money, and I got a big wheel for Christmas. And that was the coolest gift at that time in my life I'd ever had. And that was just a memory that I always hold on to. That was a magical Christmas, and we were stone cold broke. It was cold that, you know, where we lived, it was like 20 degrees, it was freezing cold. And I'll just never forget my mom bundling me up in like 10 layers so I could ride on the big wheel.
Oh boy, wow, that's a good childhood memory.
Yes, yes, Christmas, and I would say that would be Christmas 48 years ago.
Okay, Dr. Prince, we have a little more time here, and with that time, I'd like for you to share where we're at as a school district, up under your leadership. You know, where we come from and where we're currently at and where you believe you want to take us.
Well, it's an exciting time. I believe St. Lucie County Public Schools is a destination district. And we've come a long way from just 7 or 8 years ago, where our performance was in the bottom third out of 67 counties in the state. And now we're in the top third, and we're the highest performing district on the Treasure Coast. That's never happened before.
Yes.
So I'm excited. We've had a lot of accomplishments this year. We passed a referendum that helps pay our veteran teachers more, and make sure we've got a school resource deputy in every single one of our schools. But we have 50,000 single-family homes going up in the next 5 to 6 years in our community. We're growing a couple of thousand students every year. And we have a new high school that's being built in the Tradition area. We're rebuilding Westwood. We just took out basically a mortgage at our last board meeting for Westwood and the new high school. We have a K-8. I'm actually going to be talking to the board next month about maybe accelerating that building project because of what we're hearing from developers and also our realtors with the need that these kids have to have a place to go to school. And not just that, it's I just see us having high expectations and really being the premier district, not in just the Treasure Coast, but from the Space Coast all the way down to South Florida.
Right, and we've proven that we can go there and we can get there. Our students, our administration, our teachers, our educators, we can all get there, and all of the other support staff as well.
Well,
working together.
What's really cool is our reputation is starting to get out there as well. You know, we're starting to get teachers that, you know, that lived here in St. Lucie County, but they were working in Palm Beach County, or they were working in Martin or Indian River. And now those folks are applying for jobs here.
That's great, great.
And so I'm really excited about the future with God willing and the board. I will be here for a very long time.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
This is my last job, Dr. Mills, so I got to make it count.
Now, you mentioned 2 new schools coming up.
Yes.
When can the community, when can we expect those schools to be completed?
Okay. So Westwood, I'm really excited about the Westwood school because
you and everyone else.
Yeah, I consider our high schools to be the crown jewels of the school system. They're really destined, they're cities. So that school is going to open in January of 2026. Now we're already in 2023. That's not a long time from now. At the same time, a new high school will open up in the Tradition area in 2025, August 2025. So basically 5 months apart, those schools are going to be opening. We're going to transition the kids from the old campus in Westwood into the new campus in January. And then the preceding August, we're going to be opening up for grades 9, 10, and 11 for the Tradition area, which will offload Centennial and also Treasure Coast High School that have 3,300 students in each one of those schools. They're packed with the enrollments. Right now, our K-8 is supposed to open in August 2027, but because of what we're hearing about the acceleration of the single-family homes and the apartment complexes, we're going to try to move that up, and I'm going to present that to the board probably next month, which will open in August of 2026.
And where will that open up at?
So we're going to talk about the potential locations with the board next month. There's 3 potential locations for that school. They're all, I would call it the Southwest Corridor, Gatlin Road, Gatlin, I-95, and West. But I think we're also planning something for the board to go and do a tour of the area to see all the growth that's going on in the apartment complexes, because it's just crazy the amount of growth that's happening out there. So I'm excited about it, but it's a little frightening in a sense, because it's already really hard right now to find teachers. You're talking about opening 2 new schools within a year of each other. It's going to be a challenge, but I know we're up to it.
Yes, we are. Okay, anything else would you like to share that you think is interesting that we need to know as a community that I may not be thinking of asking?
Well, I just think that we're in a time of transition here in St. Lucie County where I think our business community has finally gotten on board with our progress. They feel confident in the direction of the district. You can see all of these industries. You know, the reason industries pick a community to move into, number one thing they look at is the quality of the schools.
That's right. That's right.
And we've had 6 consecutive years of graduation rates exceeding 90%. Only 4 counties in the state can say that. So our trajectory and momentum is forward moving. And I think our business communities, the industry's coming in here. It's an exciting time to be a superintendent and a board member as well, because I think that we're transitioning into the next phase of our school district's history, and I think it's going to be defined by greatness. I really do.
And that the community is gaining the knowledge of where we've come from and where we're at now. For a while there, we were moving forward, but a lot of people had no idea.
Right.
As a real estate agent myself, I get to meet a lot of realtors, and they had no idea. Even just a couple of years ago, that we had some of these accomplishments that we have now.
Sure.
So now what I hear is that, oh yeah, we're doing great. You know, that's good. That's the business community understanding what the district is doing.
Anybody that will listen to me, if you've got anybody you want me to
Same
talk
thing
to,
here.
I'll go out and talk to them, because we've got great news to share.
Okay, well, you know we're going to have National Day of Prayer.
Yes.
And I just heard from the organizer yesterday, and they're looking forward to hearing the needs. What can the community do to help with those needs? I think you'll probably have about 5 minutes to share that, you know, and so he's looking forward to that. And then we're going to pray for the school district as well.
We need all we can get.
Needs. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So, Dr. Prince, it's been great having you on the program. How's your family doing?
Oh my gosh, they're doing great. I'm so blessed. You know, I have 4 children and a wife who's a teacher in our public schools. And
Yes.
we got a 14-year-old daughter that's got an 8th grade graduation coming up in one of our public schools, and she's going to be she's going to Centennial High School next year. So
Great.
she's very excited. So my family, I could not be more blessed to be here in St. Lucie County for the last 8 years. It's the greatest thing, I think, for a family that we've ever done. And I'm just, thanks for asking. Everyone's doing great.
And how's your son doing? Isn't it his first year?
Yes.
He'll be completing in
At the
college?
University of Florida. He's finishing up at the University of, well, he's in his 2nd year now, because of all the college credits he took at Treasure Coast High School. When he graduated from there, he graduated with, I think, 30 credits, 30 college credits. So he literally entered as a sophomore.
Yes, and that's another great thing that our children can do, the dual enrollment and the other programs that we have that give credits.
He saved me a lot of money.
Yes, 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 and you and a lot of other parents out there as well. Talk about our Promise program a little bit.
Yeah, so anybody, you know, if students, you know, we encourage students to come back into our community, and our Promise program is, if students want to go out to college, graduate, we're going to guarantee them a job as a teacher here in St. Lucie County. And we encourage our students to take advantage of that. We want our students to come back and give back to our community all the blessings that our schools and our community has given them. And that's really paying it forward.
Yes, and that's also great news for anyone that wants to go into education. And we do ask them to come back and to help us make our schools great.
And we have vacancies. We're ready to go.
All right. So at that, we're going to end our program. I think we ended on a very good note. And we thank Dr. Prince again for being our guest speaker here on the St. Lucie County Public School Speakers Bureau. And we thank him also for being such a great leader here in St. Lucie County.
I appreciate you, Dr. Mills. I'm just so lucky to have such a supportive board and supportive board members, and you know, have many conversations with you. We have very similar core set of beliefs. So I appreciate everything you do for our community.
Well,
Thanks for having me today.
We've gotten to know each other.
Yeah.
Thank you also. We appreciate it.
Thank you.